Ah, Queen Elizabeth I, the woman, the myth, the legend. If you think modern royals have drama, wait until you hear about the Virgin Queen. Her childhood was a wild ride of political backstabbing, religious chaos, and, oh yeah, being declared illegitimate, awkward. But against all odds, she rose to the throne and ruled England for 44 years like an absolute boss. Before we dive into the juicy details, why not hit that subscribe button? You know you want more royal gossip. Born to Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth's grand entrance into the world was met with about as much enthusiasm as a soggy crumpet. Her father, the walking red flag of English history, wanted a son, and the Catholics saw her as an illegitimate mistake. But against all odds, this unwanted princess would one day become one of England's greatest monarchs. How? Well, strap in, it's a wild ride. Elizabeth's childhood was basically a soap opera, minus the dramatic slow-motion reactions. When she was just 2, her mother, Anne Boleyn, lost her head, literally, and Elizabeth lost her royal status. One day, she was a princess. The next, she was just that girl who used to be a princess. Tudor life, huh? After Henry VIII decided that marriage to Anne Boleyn was so last season, he had her executed on some probably exaggerated charges. Elizabeth, now motherless, was unceremoniously kicked off the list of potential heirs. Because obviously nothing says great parenting like disowning your own kid. But little Lizzie wasn't one to sit around and mope. Despite the chaos, Elizabeth found a few bright spots in her early years. Her governess, Kat Ashley, made sure she got the best education money and royal privilege could buy. We're talking languages, philosophy, politics, the whole future queen starter pack. Then there was her stepmother, Catherine Howard, who treated her like a favorite little sister until she was executed too. Are we sensing a pattern here? Eventually, another stepmother, Catherine Parr, stepped in because Henry VIII collected wives like Pokemon. But this one was different. Parr convinced the king to reinstate Elizabeth into the royal family, bringing her back into the line of succession. So, despite the revolving door of queens and a childhood straight out of a tragic novel, Elizabeth was slowly but surely clawing her way back to power. Elizabeth may have been the Virgin Queen, but that didn't stop the Tudor rumor mill from working overtime. And at the center of all the royal gossip, one very tall, very handsome, very married man, Robert Dudley. Elizabeth and Dudley basically grew up together, and their bond was tighter than a pair of Tudor corsets. When Elizabeth became queen in 1558, Dudley sprinted to her side like a man who knew his best chance at success had just landed on the throne. She rewarded him with the prestigious role of Master of the Horse, which sounds cool, but really meant he got to travel with the queen, plan her entertainment, and most importantly, spend a lot of time with her. This did not go unnoticed. People whispered, courtiers raised eyebrows, and then, of course, there was that one old lady who got thrown in jail for claiming Dudley had given Elizabeth a red petticoat, Tudor slang for took her virginity. But wait, it gets juicier. Dudley was already married to Amy Robsart, a noblewoman he had wed when he was just a teenager. Conveniently, or suspiciously, Amy was found dead in 1560 at the bottom of a staircase with a broken neck. Was it an accident? Suicide? A murder plotted by an ambitious Dudley? Historians still argue about it today, but one thing was certain. Elizabeth could never marry him now. The whole situation was way too scandalous. And marrying a man everyone suspected of offing his wife wasn't the best PR move. Even though Elizabeth didn't marry Dudley, she refused to let him go. She tried marrying him off to Mary, Queen of Scots, which went horribly, gifted him an entire castle, and kept him at her side for decades. When Dudley died in 1588, Elizabeth was devastated, locking herself away with his final letter, which she kept until her own death. Their story was part romance, part political drama, and 100% Tudor-level messy, and honestly, that's exactly why we're still talking about it. Phew. Alright, now that Elizabeth has sorted things out at home, it's time to see how she handled her neighbors. Spoiler alert, not everyone was a fan of her reign. But hey, what's history without a little drama, right? First, Elizabeth had the classic who's in charge here showdown with Spain. The big bad Habsburgs, led by King Philip II, didn't exactly love the idea of a Protestant England in the neighborhood. I mean, what's a good Catholic king supposed to do when there's a Protestant queen right across the channel? He was definitely not sending her any fruit baskets for Christmas. The tensions boiled over when Elizabeth sent some help to Dutch rebels fighting against Spain, which made Philip say, "Okay, that's it, you're on my list." And thus, the Spanish Armada was born. Now, the Spanish Armada, it sounds dramatic, right? Picture it. A massive fleet of Spanish ships ready to invade England and wipe out Protestantism once and for all. It's like an episode of your favorite historical drama. But the thing is, Elizabeth wasn't just a pretty face. She was clever, and she had some tricks up her sleeve. So, when the Armada set sail in 1588, Elizabeth's navy, although smaller, used faster ships and smarter tactics. A combination of bad weather, poor strategy, and the English fleet's cunning led to a humiliating defeat for Spain, and just like that, England had its victory. The Spanish Armada? More like the Spanish, not-so Armada. Then there's the issue of Ireland. Yeah, Ireland wasn't exactly thrilled with English rule. Elizabeth's forces fought the Irish in a series of conflicts known as the 9 Years' War. The Irish didn't want to become part of the English Empire, and Elizabeth wasn't exactly willing to let them just do their own thing. Spoiler alert, it didn't go super well for the Irish, and the English grip on Ireland became even stronger, but it wasn't without cost. Resources, lives, and more than a little tension were spent in the struggle. And while all of this is happening, let's not forget about the international gossip between England and France. Elizabeth had to walk a fine line with the French. On one hand, they were technically her allies, sort of. On the other hand, they had their own religious conflicts, and as we've seen, Elizabeth wasn't exactly a fan of rival Catholics taking too much of the spotlight. France, meanwhile, had its own plans to mess with England by supporting Catholic plots within England. Because who wouldn't want to stir the pot with a queen who wasn't playing by their religious rules? All in all, Elizabeth's foreign relations were like trying to juggle flaming swords. She played the game with great skill, but it wasn't without its fair share of burns. Her ability to keep England's enemies at bay, particularly Spain, while maintaining relative peace with other European powers, earned her a lot of respect. And while there were some conflicts, Elizabeth's military success solidified her as a ruler who could hold her own on the world stage. So in the end, Elizabeth's foreign policy was a mix of shrewd diplomacy and some serious military wins. She may not have been the best at keeping her friends close, but she sure knew how to keep her enemies at a safe distance, and that's pretty much what made her a legendary queen. By her 50s, Elizabeth had traded youthful modesty for full, queenly extravagance. Think towering wigs, powdered white makeup, probably not great for her health, and gowns so elaborate they could double as furniture. But despite her regal glow-up, time was catching up with her. Her beloved advisors and friends, especially Robert Dudley, were dropping like flies, leaving her increasingly isolated. When her final favorite, Robert Devereux, Earl of Essex, got a little too ambitious and attempted a rebellion, she had to execute him. Talk about a bad breakup. In 1603, at age 69, Elizabeth passed away, ending the Tudor dynasty. Her funeral was a grand affair. 4 black-cloaked horses carried her through London, ensuring she left in style. Though she had no heirs, she left behind a legacy so legendary that centuries later, she's still the ultimate girl boss of English history. And that, dear watcher, is how you rule like a queen. If you enjoyed this wild ride through Elizabeth's life, hit that subscribe button for more weird history, and let us know in the comments. If you could time travel to the Tudor era, would you rather be a royal? Or just stay far, far away from all the beheadings? Let's discuss.